Sure. All right, so welcome everybody to the second podcast of Caught on the Web podcast. Today I'm joined by I guess someone who's in the media quite often nowadays. His name's Ciaran Mckinney, for those of you who don't know him. He's famous enough on TikTok now. I'd say for our locality, Swords. I don't know, Ciaran, maybe you can correct me on this. I don't know. Is there a lot of famous people from Swords?
I wouldn't say it's famous. I say I just worked for it. But in terms of people from Swords, I wouldn't say there's a lot of people from Swords that I know of who would have done pretty well on TikTok, to be fair.
Yeah, like as well as TikTok, like I guess there are a few people, like, to be honest, I'm not in the whole lot with famous people in general, but I guess, like, you got Paul Flynn, and I think that's about it. But you're kind of making your way through, and you're not only famous on TikTok, and I guess you've kind of began your run on the news as an advocate, and that's one of the many things we're gonna discuss today. So I think firstly, before we continue, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll delve into the rest of your journey?
Yeah, sure. So as you know, I'm Ciaran Mckinney. I am 17 years of age. I'm in 6th year, finished up in school this year. I'm doing my leaving cert. I love helping people. People is something that I want to look into in the future in terms of college and education. I always love helping people and taking part in organizations, etc. I'm known on TikTok for the complete opposite of helping people in terms of comedy, etc. And yeah, that's really all. My life's pretty boring than that.
And I guess, like you said, Ciaran, you like to help people, which is I don't think there's a lot of people that help, and I think there's a lot of people give negative feedback more than help. And I think having someone, even if you don't know them, like yourself with YouTube's people, YouTubers would get comments and they'd be like, you've made my day by like watching that. And I think that's like something important, is where you have some sort of safe space or safe haven where people can go to and they can relax, and they can just have a bit of a laugh. Because to be fair, some of your TikToks are pretty funny, do you know what I mean? And I think like having that area, like you said, and you said you like helping people, and from the experience I've had, you're one of the most helpful people I know, do you know what I mean? Like, from my personal experience, and that's not to sound like licking your ass or whatever, but like you're quite a genuine person, and you do get the work done with the things we've worked on in the past. And like you said, from being mates with you, I know you do a lot of mental health advocacy, and I think I kind of want to like delve into that a little bit, and just tell me what exactly you do with that.
Yeah, I suppose the thing is with mental health, when I first started off, it wasn't really meant to happen. So I first started off in an organization which me and another friend of mine founded after the passing of someone who we knew within our area. So we set up that organization. That organization did really, really well, and it started getting noticed by other newspapers and radio stations, local radio stations. We got LMFM had us on. We had Dublin City FM, and then Together FM. So we had many little, like newspapers and local radio stations that wanted to get us involved, and who actually heard about the work that we have done. I suppose after that, I've kind of taken a step back, because I knew that I got my work done, what I needed to get done on that project. And that project is still going to this day, with new people going on and on and on with that project. And then I decided to focus a little bit more on, the work that I do with St. John's Ambulance, etc. I wanted to look more into patient care. And then I decided to continue on then and apply for what is known as a crisis volunteer. So basically what we do is, if someone's having a really, really bad day, or someone is really like at the end of it and really feeling low, and obviously the 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 mental health services are shut, and that's really when we come in. We're technically as well classified as the blue light services for those people who do need the help, because we are there at times when people need us, at night times, night shifts, day shifts, morning times, the times where you wouldn't expect people to be up. That is when we really come in, and that's where we find ourselves in their busiest times. And I suppose that's kind of, in a way, interlinked me with Irish TikTok. I started off TikTok and went into the mental health aspect of things. And then I was like, you know what, let's see what else we can do with her, and just give mental health videos. And we got into the comedy side of things. And that has actually started to help people a lot more, which was something that I always wanted to do. Social media was never really anything that I was going to expect to happen. And it just happened, I suppose, in a way of helping people.
Yeah, like I think I know for myself, obviously, like, this is something I really wanted to do, and I think like an added bonus is becoming big on whatever platform you do, and I'm just gonna stop you before we go into TikTok because that's one of the other things I want to go into. But you say you were mentioning the group that you made with one of your friends. I believe was that Facebook group.
It started off, I wouldn't classify it as a Facebook group. We kind of set up as an organization that used Facebook as a main platform of communicating with people. Obviously, then we had our own website. We had, we did our own training with our volunteers, etc., stuff like that to help people. But I would say our main kind of platform or communication basis with people was on Facebook, and that's what I did really, really well with.
And you mentioned training, and I'll get onto that in a second. But
yeah,
I feel like that group got like a lot of attention. Like I remember when it first came out, that was I think a year or two ago with the passing of the lad we know. You know, it was like there was a lot of support from it, and I feel like as well as a local aspect, I think it was just something that was missing in the moment. And I feel like it's something that a lot. Maybe this is maybe well, what's the word? Not right of me to say because I can't think of a better word. But I feel like a lot of people are so open about talking about mental health stuff and all this and post stuff on their Instagrams, but I feel like they don't effectively do something like you took the initiative and you actually set up that group chat. And I feel like it's all well and good putting stuff on Instagram, but I mean when there's a platform like that you can do something on and you can kind of make more of a direct change, I think that's kind of what helps. And I'm not taking away from people that want to be helpful on Instagram. Go on, by all means, promote it. That's the best way, word of mouth as well. But like you're using that group chat and or that you're using Facebook as a means of communication. And what did you precisely do on Facebook? I think it was like quotes and all, but to be honest, it's a donkey years ago, as they say, so I can't really remember too much. You know better.
I suppose there were different types of forms of communication that we had with people. The main thing that people were really checking on was something that we called a mental health check-in. So every single morning and night, we'd have moderators and admins, also known as the support team or the crisis team, and they all come together and we designated different roles. So people will be doing morning posts, people will be doing, nighttime posts, etc. Good morning, have a lovely day, we believe in you. Little stuff like that can help people along the way with their stigma of mental health. We then did something called a mental health check-in. And this is a very popular scheme that's kind of run across a lot of more mental health organizations, especially schools with children who can't express themselves in ways that they want to express themselves. So in saying that, we did something called a mental health check-in. So for example, a red heart could mean I'm feeling okay today. A blue heart could mean, I'm having a good day. A brown heart, I'm actually feeling a little bit shit about myself today. And then a yellow heart means I'm having a really bad day and I wouldn't mind someone reached out to me. So it wasn't a form of you sitting there commenting what you're feeling. It was more a form of you commenting on representation of what type of heart that represented you and your emotions at that time. And then I say within less than 5 or 10 minutes, you'd always have a volunteer pop into your DMs, be like, hello, how's things? Are you okay? Is everything going okay today? How are you feeling, etc. So I suppose that was one of our forms of communication that really stood out for us.
And like you said, somebody just checking up, and I think that simple checkup. I think a lot of people, don't see the power in just a simple checkup because for some people that are extremely, for lack of a better word, my synonyms aren't on fire today, but someone who's depressed or has anxiety or some sort of disorder, mentally, or they can't express themselves, like you said. I think it's nice for someone to just come in and check with them. Personally, I don't come across a lot of mental issues, which I'm grateful for, but I know there's a lot of people that struggle with it. I think opening up is the hardest thing, or I think they can open up. I'm not a psychologist by any means, but I think they can open up or coming to understanding with what happens. And like you were saying, some people might be fine during the day, and then when they're left to their own thoughts and their own devices, and at nighttime, it's it's kind of where people are in their own headspace, the families, away doing whatever. And I think that's to be honest, you're in school, you don't really have a lot of time to think about it. But if you're obviously that, mentally upset or strained, you may be losing focus off your school. But I think when you're, as I said, left to your own devices in the evening, I think that's when, you begin to actually kind of scrutinize and delve in and dig into all them emotional things. And I know you also, before I go on to the next thing, I'm just wondering, you said a blue light service. What was that all about?
So are you talking about St. John's Ambulance, is it?
Yeah.
The work I do.
I think so.
So I work with St. John's Ambulance. I'm a cardiac first responder registered with the Pre-Hospital Emergency Care Council. So I've been very, very lucky in terms of on duties, etc. We never have to come across anything too bizarre. But I definitely have said that St. John's Ambulance has helped me come across situations. I've come across many situations, and where my training, my 2 classes of training has came in and kicked in and has helped people. Obviously we can't go into the detail of what actually happened, but in terms of, you know, for anyone that's listening to this, if you want to do first aid training, it is an amazing thing to do, specifically for an employer point of view and employer respective thing. They will want to look at what that is. They would like to know, what are you actually doing, etc. I think having that skill, and most importantly, that specific training in there, you have it for once, you have it for life. And fair enough, it might make you look good, but it can also save a life. And I suppose that's very, very important. To kind of get involved in as much things as you can for your own satisfaction, but most importantly for your future and for the other people around you and how you can help them. So yeah, St. John's Ambulance was definitely something that I would never regret going into. I always love it.
I think you know, you love helping people, and I think especially doing skills that kind of help people. And I think, you know, if you're obviously a people's person, you know, that's such an amazing thing to do. And, you know, I always see them like funny scenes, you know, it's like, is there a doctor nearby or something? But it's like, is there, you know, someone, I think now that's a growing thing, is like, is there a mental advocate or, you know, a promoter nearby that can, you know, obviously in your DMs, obviously it doesn't have to be in, you know, the real life place, but, you know, someone that can come in and talk to you. And I think that's really important, because I think nowadays, you know, like I said, I don't know about other people, but right now I'm fine anyways. I'm grateful for that. There's people aren't fine. And I think especially lads, and I think we'll talk about this in a few minutes, but I think lads are a lot harder to get down. Like, you know, they can put on such a good mask for so long, and, you know, pretend everything's fine, and then one day it's just not fine and it's all over, and then there's nothing you could have, there's something that we could have done, but we didn't do it, and it's late. And then I think a lot of people feel regret or, you know, sad, and then that leads on to other people, you know, and it pushes down the chain. And I think it's a horrible thing, and I think it's a growing problem. And I don't think social media really helps it either.
Yeah, and that's very, very true. I suppose, though, like there needs to be more, you know, fundamental supports and services and resources put in place within schools. I think education specifically would be the most important thing in terms of mental health. The stigma around mental health these days, as you know yourself, is quite shocking. But I think there needs to be some type of education, you know, especially within schools, especially for lads, examples in our schools, etc., for people who are struggling with mental health, because there is a massive stigma based around mental health, and especially based around males, that they, you know, keep things into themselves, they don't talk, etc. But yeah, if I was there in that position, I think there needs to be more support, specifically looking at schools, etc. Because I think if you educate someone, it will give them the best chance going forward on what to do in that circumstance, and how to help their friend, etc.
And I guess obviously yourself and I were not really part of the board of education or anything, and we can, you know, have this lovely debate about how valuable learning expressions and the value of language and everything like that. And I think key, you know, components to daily lives like mental health and, you know, stigmatizing and all that type of thing. I think students need to be educated on it. But I think it's just, you know, it's like you said, it's a growing problem. And I think especially lads, you know, they're seeing, you know, in a patriarchal society, you know, men are meant to be strong. And I guess that's a stereotype that will live true for a long time. And I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. And I don't mean to call out, you know, what's the, I got to be very careful how I put this, but I think, you know, people that are trying to remove norms, I think instead of trying to remove norms and doing that, I think they should, you know, fill in the cracks, you know, because I think it's a lot easier to fix a problem than to start a new problem and add that onto the problems that are fixing. And I won't get into the politics of it now, because I don't think this is a political debate. And I think we're, you know, it's more about talking about you and, you know, the amazing things that you're doing and have done and will probably continue to do in the future. And you say you want to go into the ambulance service, and we'll talk about that in a second as well. But I know you said you do like a call crisis thing as well.
Yeah, so I work with an organization called 7 Cups of Tea. Basically, we deal with people who are, you know, in psychological distress. We do a lot of things, you know, with dealing with people who are feeling suicidal, people down with people who are being bullied, people who have like gone through physical problems, illnesses, watch family members pass away. We do obviously get these times where we do get very, very stressing situations as volunteers, and like we won't go into the detail of what the stuff we do get told, but we do get told some crazy stuff, and we get to like aspect, and we have to, you know, obviously we're not going to judge them because we're here to listen to them. So I suppose at the end of the day, we're kind of sitting there and we're listening. But I suppose the thing is with the crisis work that I do, it's a short-term resource that's only, you know, get them through that night. It's sad that the, you know, the 4 to 8 or, you know, the 9 to 5 services aren't open to help them through that. And that's when us as crisis volunteers come in, and it's all voluntary. We all do it to go of our times. We volunteer nights, days, whenever we're free, we pop on, we see what we can do, and we help out. I suppose that is something that is what's so important, and it's something that does go a long way in terms of helping people. And there, once again, it looks good on yourself when it comes to helping yourself, your CVs, your publicity, etc., stuff like that.
And are them 9 to 5 services closed because of COVID, or is it just they've
9 to 5 services? 9 to 5 services have always failed people, regardless of COVID or not COVID. These services are not there for the people that need them the most, and I think that is what's so important. These services, for example, you know, they're clinical environments, and they're very hard to get into. They're 9 to 5, but once you get in there, you know what, fair play to you. But these services fail people sometimes. Luckily, they haven't failed me. I've been very, very, very lucky. But I know people who have been failed by services, which I will not mention within the HSE. And that's really when we come in, and that's what our part is. And then mental health advocates, that's what they do. They fill in that gap, and, you know, that rift, that gap that between crisis volunteers, emergency workers, and counsellors, etc. They all fill in that gap together because the service is failing in a way, and there is no resources or anything out there to really help, or funding, etc.
I think you know, the likes of Samaritans and cotton my boot or cotton my shoe, or sorry, I'm gonna probably made a pause of that now, the second one, but I know like they're advertised and all that, and I think I don't know, I just feel like they're made seem, you know, like just so easy accessible, as you say, and I feel like even the people are trying to get in them themselves kind of feel stigmatized, or they feel like it's kind of, you know, odd going into that setting. And I think, you know, the thing you're kind of doing, I feel like is a bit more, you know, what's the word, like, you know, a bit more
effective.
Yeah, and like tender, you know, because you drop that heart and then somebody's coming to you. It's not like you're coming to them. So they're kind of like, you kind of are looking for help off them, obviously, in the first place, you know, but like you're getting that help off them. And, you know, you're saying that you can't really get into the details too much of what you do. And I'm guessing that's for, you know, similar to like what lawyers do, attorney-client privilege and all that type of jazz. But what would you say, in your opinion, from your experience, what would be the biggest contributor to mental health problems?
I suppose it's helping people on a one-to-one individual basis, you know, especially with the crisis line. We have so much people waiting, and the times are long when it comes to waiting. But I suppose you need to have the attitude of dealing with that person in a one-to-one service. Especially just being there and empathizing with them and talking to them and not judging them. At the end of the day, we're a non-judgmental organization. We're not allowed to judge, and we're not allowed to give advice. We're there to help, and most importantly, support them through it. And that would be the most contributing factor, is actually just being there. And I suppose that person, to me, I don't know them, and I don't want to know them, and they don't want to know me. And it's put that way because at the end of the day, the way they're going to approach me could be different, and they could approach me completely different if they knew who I was and if I was sitting right in front of them. So I suppose that anonymous line that's put in place for people to talk between each other is what's important. Another thing to say is that we would never ask someone for their name. People make up their own usernames to talk on this app. And that's really there from an anonymous point of view, obviously your GDPR, etc. But it's there for them to kind of be as open as possible in a very sampling based time frame, if that makes sense. And that's probably one of the most important contributors that we need to know about.
So like, you know, so like I think social media, and I think social media is kind of counterintuitive in the sense, and we, as I said, I won't get too political, and body positivity and this image of you're perfect no matter what, and multiple podcasts have talked about this. And I think certain body norms that I don't want to sound too narcissistic and not open about, because everyone's different and their own bodies are different and everything. Everyone's different in whatever they do, and they're happy and they're free to do whatever they want. But a lot of I think social media, I think if you look at statistics and surveys that have been done, I think each year it's growing problem. And I think if you look at what's it called, the Social Dilemma on Netflix, the statistic, I don't know the statistic, it was a staggeringly dangerous and crazy statistic, but like 13-year-olds that commit suicide, and it's all being linked to social media. And I think I think there has to be a kind of a regulation based on that. We're not going to really talk about that too much, but I think, like another thing is that I've watched and heard a lot is that what you eat can account to up to 80% or 90% of your mood. So, if, like, let's say you're eating a load of rubbish all day and I'm eating healthy, chances are, if we're both in an ideal mental state, you're going to feel bloated, you're going to feel sick, and that kind of leads on with your mood. And I won't talk about too much about the nutrition and all that, because I'm not a professional at that. But there's so many classes of mental health problems these days. Like depression and anxiety and dysmorphias, or if I pronounce that right, or I don't know, I'm not professional in that field, and all them types of things. But like, from your collective experience, is there one outstanding like not contributor but problem? Would you say like anxiety leads to depression, or would you say just depression is like the biggest one? Or because I feel like a lot of people are anxious, and I think you can be anxious for a time, before a match or whatever, but I feel like a lot of people have like serious anxiety that holds them back from completing simple tasks in their days.
I suppose anxiety does come into it a lot when it comes to the crisis line, because obviously we do a lot of children who are, in distress and in need at the time of school assignments, etc. And they're obviously worried about not getting their points and their classes, what they want to do in college, etc. The two most probably factors that we deal with a lot on a daily basis is abuse, in terms of physical abuse. And dealing with people who are going, LGBTQ issues, stuff like that. They would probably be the most two main and most common factors of things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. I suppose they're quite hard because we can't do anything. We can't safeguard them. We're only there to listen. And I suppose that is, in a way, probably one of the most difficult things that we encounter with, because we can't really do much other than sit there on the other side. We can't safeguard them. We can't physically come across the screen and, take them out of that zone and put them into a different zone. Some things just take time, and it's about getting through that with the time that they have in the most comfortable and most reassured way as possible. Yeah.
Do you feel like kind of helpless though, the way you were saying that it's not like a long-term solution, it's that time when people can get, and I guess any bit of help they can get is quite important. But you think like like you said, you can't safeguard them either, and the chances are you're only going to meet with them once. I don't know your algorithm or anything, but you kind of feel like that this solution is helpless in a sense, because it's kind of like a dead end.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that thinks about other people, and I will sit there all night and all day, and I will sit there and think about the same person. I suppose it all comes down to the organization that I work for. I'm very grateful not to know the person on the other side of the phone. So I wouldn't say it's, you're going to shut down once you leave work, you just shut off. But you don't just shut off. That doesn't work like that.
Especially in your field. I think people like don't have that mentality.
Exactly. You don't just shut off and go, right, I've logged out now. I'm in a new world. It doesn't work like that. I suppose it's more than, as I said, it's more the anonymous aspect of things that helps it. You do think about it a little bit. I know that I think back, it's probably been the first time I think about it in a long time, because I don't really think about them type of things.
Sorry, do you think it's a bit scary though, the anonymous thing, that it could be someone that you like, obviously you might not know or whatever, but it might be someone that you work with, one of your colleagues, and it might be someone and they're anonymously tipping away, and like I think that anonymous factor, and like you said, you can't safeguard. I think that's like so scary, because your like best mate that could seem perfectly fine is ended up going to someone for mental health advice, and you're not going to know any wiser. Do you know what I mean? I think that's kind of scary. I'll just let you continue on. I thought I'd just say that.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I respect that. as I said, there's other organizations out there, and there are organizations that I probably would consider going on to in the future. Specifically, when I turn 18 and I'm a little bit older, I can actually go on to those organizations that are more advanced and, deal with safeguarding, deal with calling social care, calling the emergency services, etc. There are organizations that I'm looking to go in for, but dealing with what we have at the moment, them resources aren't available to us, especially training wise. There's always time and always room for improvement in terms of training. I suppose the anonymous thing, as you were saying, it could be our best friend. Yeah, it could be our best friend. But I suppose the anonymous factor is there. So we don't know that person is. Everyone is treated with the 50 out of 50. Everyone is treated with respect, dignity, compassion, stuff like that. That's, I think, what is the most important factor for us is. And that's what I say, what gets us through our training. That's what gets us through dealing with the stuff that we do. And we switch off at the end of the day. As I said, it's very hard to switch off, but we kind of just, it kicks in with the anonymous point of views, etc. It kind of just, you don't really end up thinking about things. And that's just me. I'm only talking on behalf of myself. People think different. We have volunteers who have been very, very things like that, and trigger warnings, etc., have been put in place for these people because they don't know how to actually deal with things like this. So I suppose it does really come with your experience as well. Like, we do have supports available that will be able to help us, etc. And when we go to obviously listen to bad jobs, etc. I think it would kick in different though if we were dealing with like phone calls, but we're obviously a texting service. But I say phone calls would have kicked in a lot different.
And I see you mentioned social care, and then as you get older, you can work with them. And I think not just respect to social workers, and I believe this is the same in every single profession, walk of life, people in society in general. And I think there's you always hear these horror stories of ineffective social care people, and it gets to the very last it gets like, this is kind of a separate thing, but kind of not. There was this documentary on Netflix, and I don't know if you know, it was about this like little boy, and I believe he was beat to death by his parents. A lot of people might know it by now, but it was because of the kid was like LGBT, but this kid was like 7. So I think the dad was like, this was his stepdad, but he was kind of, the kid's just going to grow out or whatever. And then his mom was like crazy, but his mom was like influencing him. And the social worker in charge, and this is what I mean, it was in charge, but I don't think she was giving it resources or whatever. And I feel like we said at the beginning of this interview podcast, that there's not a lot of resources before. And I think, that's the kind of scary thing. And it's still like, and like you said, people that go into this, don't go into this and just forget about it straight away. Is there like some scary stories they have? And I'm not going to ask you to reveal them, but is there stories that stick with you?
Yeah. So as I said to you previously there, like 10 minutes ago, there is stories that we get, and there's some stories that sit there and they will haunt you. And I mean, absolutely haunt you. The stuff that we hear sometimes, and you don't know, if that person's joking or if that person's being real. So as you said, everyone is treated as if, it is happening at that moment. I suppose that is what's so important. But in terms of stuff coming and like sticking with us, it does happen. Yeah, that's really it.
And I guess like this kind of like the boy. I don't know if you're familiar with the boy who called Wolf, but is there like that scenario? But is there like that scenario where people go onto your service and they just try to take the mick, and then you think they're taking the mick, and then you possibly end the discussion, and then they weren't taking the mic or whatever, and that was just their form. Like, it's a very what's the word? A very strange hypothetical, but like there could be people that come on, and you think they're taking the mic, you end the call, and I think that's the same with anyone in the paramedics and the police, they're taking a mic, and then something actually happens, and I guess then you feel guilty, even though it wasn't really your fault. But you get that situation, like not even a hypothetical, but you get situations where people come on and take the mic out, like.
All the time. We get a lot of abuse as well. In terms of verbal abuse, we get a lot of verbal abuse. We get words told at us every single day, etc. I suppose at the end of the day, you're only there to do
is that people like throwing abuse at you that you're trying to help, or just people taking the mick, like taking the piss?
It's a mix. You have to understand people are.
So people that you're helping, this is just crazy to me, because normally when I'd help people, especially if they're in such a fragile state, I wouldn't expect people to throw abuse at me. But I guess everyone has coping mechanisms that are different. Sorry, continue. Sorry.
there's two different aspects to this. You have people that do come on and take the mick, and I think that's low. But look, that's what the person wants to do. That's what they want to do. If they want to waste those resources, they can waste those resources. But you also have the other type of people. You know, we have to obviously keep calm. We have to sometimes accept that that person's going to talk to us this way, because in the day, we don't know what's going on. Emotions are all over the place. I think that's one thing that's very, very important. You know, your emotions are all over the place. We can't expect them, obviously, to stay calm. We don't know them. We don't know a lot about them. We're dealing with the situation that they've encountered and brought to us. And in a way, that's very, very important that we try to keep calm. But at the end of the day, there's only so much sometimes we can actually do for someone, because as I said to you, we're only a short-term solution to them. We're only there, you know, in the moment to help them. But in terms of long run, we can't actually do anything. We have to get them and use their own capabilities and to rely on themselves to actually reach out and get the support that they need.
And I remember from earlier, you're saying that you empathize with the people. And I think that's kind of a strong emotion, you know, because, you know, it shows that you've been in an experience, and it's different to being sympathetic, you know. And, you know, I think you mentioned at the start you've used services for yourself, and like, if you feel comfortable, like, is there a journey you have of yourself that kind of, you know, pushed you into that area to help people, or is it just you were just always like extremely helpful?
Always wanted to help people. I wouldn't say I've had my times with mental health, I have my days, etc., but there wouldn't be anything major that would have caused
that
made me want to do it. Helping people is always something that I wanted to do. I remember when I first started off after serving. That was the one thing that I enjoyed doing, and that brought me on to, you know, localized working with the homeless, etc. That brought me on then, you know, working with St. John's Ambulance, and taking up my own independent volunteering with crisis lines, etc. And obviously, you know, the work that me and you do in school, etc., with each other. It's just taking on the add-on roles. I think that's what I always want to do to help people, especially like whether I go for the guards or for the paramedics. I think you go into it to help people. That's what you want to do. You like helping people. You like being there for people when they need you the most. And I suppose that's kind of a thing you kind of grow up with, and you either have it or you don't. Some people are better sitting there.
Characteristics.
Yeah. Some people are better sitting there, you know, working with engines, etc. And some people are side of road with someone who's able to jump. It's things like that. You know, it's different characteristics. It's just different outcomes. It's different offsprings into life, etc. I think that's what's also very, very important as well.
Would you say that your industry, that, you know, this mental health advocacy thing, I saw this thing, it might sound quite misogynistic or patriarchal of me to say, but I saw this thing, it was like, if you look, women tend to go for jobs that help people, like nurses or whatever, and then men are more enticed with you know, working with things, so like an engineer. And you believe, like, would you say you're because, you know, sometimes a lad just wants to talk to a lad, like they feel uncomfortable talking to a girl because they, as we said, look weak. But would you say, like, you're, you know, when you're talking to someone, they know that you're talking to like Ciaran, for example, so, or do they, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you think like it's quite a, you know, a female like filled service?
In different fields, yes. So different fields now. If we're talking about the crisis volunteering, some people kind of sit there on it. Go on, sorry.
So would you say there's a lot more like females working in that crisis place, or would it be equal?
I say, yeah, there's a lot more females. The people that I know there's a lot more females. But saying that, we do have males. And I suppose people do kind of like reach out to us. 9 out of 10 times, people that really have a problem, they will ask, you know, am I speaking to a man or a woman? And you are allowed to say, hello, my name, you know, is Ciaran. I'm a male. I'm here to help you today. You're allowed to give them that. Like, if it's something that they like to speak to a girl, then they can just reconnect and they will get to a female volunteer. In terms of, you know, clinical emergency ambulance field and the guards, etc. I suppose with the guards, it's kind of a role. It's kind of the stigma based that it's all men. That's what it was back in the days.
Exactly.
And it was, what was it? I think it was they get into a van in the old days, and they were nurses. They get in and someone bring them down and they collect the person. So I suppose like it's two mixed. Like the guards was always males and the paramedics was always females, but now it's a mix into both generations and the both fields, both specialities. And I suppose that's what matters. You know, it's what we have now. We have a mix. It's diverse, and it's still growing to this day and age. Yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of now switch from the mental health advocacy, but kind of keep the same theme and hop onto TikTok. So you said at first you were kind of there to help people, and I think you have so many videos now to count on TikTok, so I won't be able to scroll down to the very bottom in time. But and then you said you switched to comedy. So like, I know TikTok was, is growing, and we're sorry, was growing and is still growing. Like, what got you to start TikTok?
How would I say this? So I first started off and I decided to go into comedy. I think I started off on YouTube. I don't know what I was thinking, but I decided to start off on YouTube. Me and you both know YouTube is very, very
saturated.
Very, very, it's very, very hard to grow on as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to search up someone. You can subscribe to them, you can like, comment, etc. But anyway, it didn't go very well. But I was young. I didn't really have the mind of my own about what I was doing. Went on to TikTok, did a few videos on TikTok, and I wasn't really paying attention, and the videos were getting better. And I don't know where I kind of got like the commitment to keep going and the motivation when they was having like really bad videos and all, and they weren't doing well. And I kept going. And then obviously there was bigger creators out there that were very helpful to me and came on board and were like to me, hey, you're doing well, keep it up, doing this, this, and this. And these are creators, that have helped me and supported me in a way. I won't go off and start naming them now because it's not really fair. But it was only really, I suppose, late last year, when I actually realized how well I was actually doing on TikTok. Now I'm not doing amazing, I've
you have like got 1 million likes and 30K followers.
That's my 1 million likes. I've rebuilt that, which I'm very proud of. But at the end of the day, like, I've worked for what I have, and it pisses me off when people turn around and go to me, you don't work for TikTok. Like, yes, you do. You obviously don't work for them physically, but you put a lot of work into something that pays off for you down the long run.
I think it's like working your own brand, and I think we'll talk about this in a second. But I think TikTok can, I don't know, not potentially ruin your image, but we'll talk about that in a second. But I don't know, from talking to you, I remember you were saying to me, like, you'd be going home from school and you're spending like half an hour like making TikToks, and like you said, it's technically a job. It's an enterprisal activity. You're putting effort into it. And was there you're putting in a lot of effort, like same way I'm putting effort into planning into this, and I think it's like, was there one particular video that kind of just was like a chain reaction and you just kept going from there?
Yeah, there was video, I think got over 500,000 views.
Jeez.
And what was it? It was a video on, I think it was Irish Mammies versus, and it did really well. I think got over like 200,000 likes or something. I can't recall it all now.
200,000 likes, fuck.
Yeah. It's really devastating to say, but because like it kind of comes normal, you don't really see it, and it's horrible to say. But with TikTok, it kind of turns into the fact that, and TikTok plays with you, and it played with me so many times in the head. You kind of then start seeing them people as numbers instead of people.
Oh, yeah, I get you.
People don't deserve their platform. I'm not saying I don't deserve my platform. I've worked really hard for it, but it plays with you a bit. And I suppose the problem is today, though, with Irish TikTok is it's kind of turning into a competing field. Everyone competes against each other instead of like one
growing together.
But no, it's all competing against each other, and it's competition, etc.
And like you said, I think at the beginning, obviously up to interpretation, and obviously when you get to that million milestone or whatever, you're humble, because you've reached that goal, and there's people that have helped you there, and like you said, it's numbers. But I think at first, you're kind of, once you get your first 100 and with your second one, then your 1,000, and then it gets to 10,000. I think in between there, you don't really like, not you don't care, but I think you kind of want to reach them milestones, and like you're saying, people are just fighting against each other, and like, as it's not a grown or helpful thing, but like like every and I think you kind of base your life upon it. It's like, oh my god, I've made a thing, this one only got 100, how come this one got 1,000? And I think it kind of like plays with your mind. It's like, am I not good enough? Is my content not good enough? Am I losing traction? Like, there's a lot of things.
That's actually played in lately. I suppose when I was growing on TikTok, I went on a massive big river where I kind of just went 1,000 each day. We were all back in school, and I was getting like comments made against me. Like, I was getting 1,000 followers each day. It was getting very, very weird. And then it got us to where we are now, which I'm nearly at 30,000. And the growth does slow down, and it does make you kind of sit back and go, why am I doing this? But then you kind of realize, wait, I've been working
since the brand. You've built like such a big thing. You kind of owe it to them.
In summer, why don't I just keep going and just do this? And I suppose it is things like that to kind of make you sit back and be like, what am I doing here? You know? But it all worked out. I've noticed it does work out, and I'm happy I did it. It's given so much confidence to the person I am, especially in school. I can walk by, I can just be like,
you know, yeah, to be fair, like people like, and we won't get into, you know, the little first years because they're just a bunch of grown hormonal samples of evolution. But you know, you mentioned Irish TikTokers competing with each other, and I saw this thing. But you think like Irish TikTokers are late to hop on trends? Like I think as well with YouTube, like I can't really name a lot of famous YouTubers. Like I can name one from the top of my head. And I was discussing this, I think, on my last podcast, or maybe one of my friends. But like I think like, you know, Irish people in particular are always like just the last people to hop on the trend, and maybe I'm wrong.
In terms of trends in TikTok, I kind of stick to my own content. I don't really make trends, but I would agree with you. It is quite delayed when it comes to Irish TikTokers making and jumping on the trends. I do agree with you on what you were saying there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like I don't know if maybe you started this in the Irish algorithm or whatever, but I think you were like one of the first people to start, you know, doing the school TikToks and the you know the Irish things. Were you, or because I think like there's this new lad, what's his name?
I know, he just their videos.
Yeah, the new lad, and I think he wears glasses or something, or maybe he doesn't.
Blonde hair.
Yeah, the blonde hair. Yeah. I saw he started doing them there recently enough, I think, or I don't know, maybe it's a, you know, like you said, a competition now, and I think like everything in life is competition, and I think there has to be a healthy balance between. I saw this thing. It was like, you know, healthy mind and healthy body, and then healthy, you know, growth on your business. But like, would you say you were the first person to start that like type of idea?
I wouldn't say the first, because obviously there's TikToks. How big it's TikTok is massive.
Yeah.
But what I is there is a lot of people that like do like varied videos. So like they do like a teacher's video like maybe once a month or twice a month. But with me, it's kind of an everyday thing. My content is based around teachers' videos. Obviously there was that chap obviously that joined in after that and was very, very, you know, he's a good TikToker. I have to give it to him. He makes me laugh. I don't really know much, but yeah.
I'm surprised you haven't went down a teaching role yourself. You know, you've kind of fallen into paramedics, and I'm guessing you're kind of stuck with that. You know, based upon the content, you'd think you're in love with, you know, teaching or the aspect of school, and we'll get onto that's one of the another things I have.
I get that a lot of people. People text me and they're like to me, "Are you a teacher?" And I'm like, "No, I'm a sixth year. Just leave me alone. Let me do my leaving sec."
Exactly. Yeah, we'll talk like, you know, and I think creativity like that. I'm guessing, you know, that's a major, you know, factor in your production of videos. You know, you want to be creative. You want to set new, you know, likable videos. And like, is it hard being creative? Like,
it's very, very hard to be creative. I actually have to sit there every single day and in school, and I think no one knows this. You're the only one to find this, and anyone else listening to this is going to find out this. You're the only person that will know this now. Everyone else is going to find out now. Is like if I sit there and I go on my phone in class, it's because I caught my teacher doing something that makes me go bing, TikTok video.
So you're so you're kind of like manipulating in school situations into a TikTok video. I think that's kind of a cool.
That's why there's no I do TikTok, especially my principal and vice principal.
Yeah, shout out to them. You know, a few TikToks that they didn't think were accurate representations, but we won't debate that factor. Anyways, I saw recently there you had a sponsorship with a teeth whitening thing, you know, and I think that's kind of like a major milestone. And you can have your million likes, but I think when, you know, businesses start cooperating with you, that's kind of a major thing. And was that because they saw your TikTok, or how did that just all come about?
It wasn't a sponsorship. It was just me doing them a favor. I bought their product because I wanted to try their product, and then I was like, you know, I'll give them a little shit and get them a little review, which I did.
Fair enough.
I've been on many training courses that teaches me how to get partnerships and sponsorships, etc. I don't really get involved in them. It's something that I should be getting involved in, but you will never, ever, ever see me pop into someone's DMs. Let's do Under Armour, because you know how much I love Under Armour.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're not sponsored by now. Like the amount that hats you, like you have some obsession when this goes out on YouTube, and people are going to see he actually wears hats. He wears like you wear hats all the time. It's yeah. I don't know. I don't get it.
I'm wearing this right now because I'm going out the shower. But yeah, I suppose you'll never really see me kind of doing, you know, sponsorships, etc. I'm not saying I'd ever decline them, but I don't really go into that field. I kind of I don't really do it as an influencer point of view. I do it to have fun, and I do it to make people laugh.
I get you.
I see people every single day and they say things to me about it on the streets, etc.
More of a hobby, like more of a hobby than a business.
More, it's something to enjoy as well.
Yeah. You like, you know, from the experience I've had, you know, in school, there's, you know, obviously a bit of slagging going on, and it can be, you know, meaningless banter or whatever. But you get serious hate on TikTok.
No, I am very, very, very lucky. I think I've not got hate, but I get more strain out in the streets than I actually do on social media.
So like people would say stuff to you on the streets, like just walking by and they make a remark.
Mainly where I'm from, and mainly, you know, school, etc. Probably the main place.
Yeah.
I suppose to those people though, I have never lashed into them because there's no point. They're slagging me for doing something unique that not everyone else in the school has ever done, which is unique and different.
I think it's kind of like, oh sorry, you're gone.
It's not gonna make me change doing what I'm doing just because they don't like it. You know, it's not like people you can sit there and go, okay, well, everyone in this class has a 1 million likes. This one here has 30,000. It doesn't. That's why I don't give up on it, because it's unique. It's different.
And I think it's kind of like the same, you know, changing life, whether that be societal or whatever the change might be, you know, it's big or small. I think there's always, you know, hate towards it, and a lack of understanding and appreciation, and it can be, you know, a factor of, you know, a bit of fear and jealousy, you know. I think, you know, jealousy.
I'd classify it down to confidence. It's people that don't have the confidence to put themselves in front of a phone and talk.
But then they would have the confidence to slag someone based upon them doing it. And you say, yeah, sorry, go on.
I don't have to sit there in front of it and look at the factors you have around you. I'm in the middle of Dublin City. We're in I'm in an all boys school. How bad can it go, or how good can it go? And it goes bad, but look how good I've done because of it. You get me? And that's not me being cocky. It's just me. It's what I've learned.
Oh, you've worked through it, and like you said, you know, you're the one that's put the work in. You know, it's not someone else doing the videos for you. And well, I don't think it is someone planning the videos. You said yourself you're doing them. You know, you're putting the work in. There's no one else. It's you justify the credit you get is justified. You know, and you say that you don't feed into this bad energy or bad vibes that you get. You know, and I kind of think it's like, you know, the louder man or the first man to enter, you know, is always the one that loses. And I think, you know, it doesn't really help anybody. It just creates, you know, commotion, fuss, kind of feeds into them, and they get a bit of a make out of it. I guess you can stand up for yourself and then hypothetically they stop, but that's just, you know, I think you have to be extremely firm, and that's not the aura or the, you know, the identity you want to be giving yourself as someone that goes around, you know, being an asshole, you know, just let them be their vibes. But, you know, I know you mentioned earlier, you know, TikTok creators that kind of helped you from the beginning, and you didn't want to mention too much about it, but, you know, I know you're from talking with you, you know, you have some pretty big TikTok friends, like, and you're kind of, you know, I think, you know, maybe in the near future, or maybe even now, some people would classify you as a, you know, a big TikToker to have, because, you know, at the time they were big TikTokers when they were talking to you, you know.
Yeah.
I know you're friends with none other than Neva, aren't you, Ciaran? Would you say?
I don't. They've both been very, very helpful. I wouldn't classify someone who I speak to every single day. Would I call them a friend? No. But would I call them someone? I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for? They know me and I know them, and they've helped me.
An acquaintance.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's kind of, you know.
Who would be your biggest help on TikTok, or your biggest supporter in general, or even both?
This is a bit of a hard one. I kind of distance myself though from the people on TikTok. I have my friends on TikTok who are there for me, you know, but I'd probably say the most biggest supporters I have on TikTok is probably my friend Kate, or my friend Alicia.
Kate. Shout out Alicia as well.
Yeah, both of them. They probably be my and my lad mates. They probably all be the biggest supporters. Other than that, I don't really kind of get very close with people from TikTok.
Your parents know? Are your parents familiar with the scale of your TikTok, and what's their opinion on the whole Tobago?
They're very, very old-fashioned. Not old-fashioned. You know, they're
conservative.
So like they wouldn't know what TikTok is. They know what Facebook is. They wouldn't know what Instagram, Snapchat, or Twitter. Or, you know,
kind of saying about mine in relation to the podcasting. I think it's like a new trend, and the fad and you hear about it. And I think there's a lot of negative connotations surrounding TikTok, and I don't think you really hear about the good things. You just hear about the bad things, you know.
Yeah, completely.
Um, and recently, you know, there was a major issue going on in the country, and I'd say you're absolutely delighted with yourself. And you kind of used your platform, correct me if I'm wrong, to kind of support this movement. And we'll talk about this because I think this is a very interesting, you know, topic, and I think um it was a serious problem as well, you know, with the way it was handled on both sides. If I'm going to be completely honest, I think one side was overly aggressive, and I think the other side was insincere and inconsiderate. I'll get into that, but you know, you used your platform to reach out, and I think, you know, you have a demographic of 30,000 people, as we know, you know, and I think that's quite supporting. You know, that there was petitions around, and I think, you know, every bit of word of mouth, you know, whether that be, you know, I think, can you even call it word of mouth on social media, but you know, like word of text or whatever, but you know, that led you going on to Virgin News, you know, because of the presence you built yourself. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, thinking of Virgin Media News, it wasn't really planned, one of those planned things to
How did
do.
that even happen, if I can ask?
Well, see, we obviously had our own committee set up to advocate for leaving certificate. I think a member of Virgin Media got in contact with, Virgin News got in contact with another member who I know, and they were looking for people, so they got in contact with me, and it just happened, you know. And then we obviously had RTE. I was on Joe Duffy as well.
Yeah. I heard the interview.
Yeah, them two. They were the main ones. I suppose a lot of people though they were using and we didn't support this. There was a lot of people who were very verbal about it and
And
were
very violent, and I felt like it was quite extreme, like an extremist movement, you know, very
wishing death among a person.
dangerous. It was dangerous because people, I'm gonna be, for lack of a better word, again, a bunch of just S-bags. I won't say the word, you know, but it was, you know, that them things can lead to dangerous things. You know, all it takes is one um a-hole to just, you know, find her or where she lives and, you know, fuck a rocket her, thinking it's funny joke, and it's all fun and games until they get caught. A lot of people were upset about it, and I've noticed myself, and I won't get too political, but a lot of the people, okay, that were quite upset about it, yeah, how do I put it? I don't want to sound like inconsiderate, but like, you know, a lot of people were just doing it for hopping on a trend maybe and trying to get a laugh out of it, and a lot of people, you know, that didn't even need to leave insert or whatever were kind of just hopping on the trend. And was that, you think they were just bored and trying to have a bit of a laugh, or do you think they were trying to help? Because from where I looked about it, there's help, and then there's just, you know, using a medium to have a bit of anarchy, you know.
I actually completely agree with you. I was going to bring it up. There's a difference between, you know, helping someone and then bullying someone. I think, but you know, get out there, get your voice heard in an appropriate way. But sitting there and telling someone, you know, to wish death among another person, etc., is not any way of helping yourself. Certainly not helping the other person around there. There was TikToks and all made about the person. There was
I saw like death threat TikToks. It was like, and it was like Norma Foley, and you know, like these like statements, and people don't get that these statements stay on the internet, and they can be so easily pulled up, and people have to be so careful. And I think people, and I know I probably sound like a broken record, but people don't listen. Things, anything you do on the internet stays on the internet for a long considerable amount of time, and I think people need to be so careful of what they post. You know, because it can be twisted in the wrong way, you know, and like you're saying, you don't wish anything. And I think in the end a fair common solution was kind of found for everybody that suited both parties. I think that's what everyone was looking for. Do I think if the leaving certs were quiet and silent, would anything have been done? Probably not. Teachers, no hate on teachers, same thing, they would have just, you know, continued with their year. I think it was more for your sake, and I think somebody should have stood up, and you did stand up, and you kind of, you know, you took initiatives, and fair play to all the Leaving Cert students that are out there, and you actually participated in change. I guess some parts were extreme, and I think, you know, there's only so much you can do at peaceful protests. I don't condone any of this violence, but yeah, sorry, I'll just let you finish what you were saying a second ago.
No, I completely agree with you that there is a lot of mixed theory, sorry, based around that's basically happened. I think, as I just want to reiterate the point that I actually made to you, there is a big difference between sitting there, you know, and fighting for change, and then sitting there wishing a death threat on one person, which is not going to get you anywhere.
It's like
You're not,
protests and
yeah,
looting, you
not going
know?
to get.
There's
You're
protests and there's looting. They don't come together. There's peaceful protest and then there's aggravated protest. We won't mention protests because it happens time and time again. But you were doing a peaceful protest and it turned sour, whatever you want to call it, real quick. And then, you know, the kind of online looting, you could say, where it turned into online harassment. And I think probably for herself, Norman Foley, she probably just thought it was a bunch of city teens. But
I do question sometimes whether she actually seen half the stuff that we all saw. She's a human being at the end of the day, regardless of what her position is and whatever decision she's made. She was a human being.
Yeah.
I think in the end she did make the healthiest. I think once.
Do you think she made the decision? Because from my standpoint, obviously, I'm not a leaving cert at the moment next year, but I think I think at first she probably just made the decision, let's have the fair, let's just have the normal leaving cert. And I think she kind of, stood her ground. It was one of the big things. Like, did you not have named Norma Foley before this whole incident?
I didn't know anything about the woman.
Exactly. And I think that's my point there that I'm going to say is I think that, that was her first big move, like it's like a chess game. You make one move, you make another move. And when you make that big, bold move that everyone sees, that's what kind of, gets you recognized. And I think, she kind of probably knew after a little while when she started seeing the statistics and the facts. And I think you need to make an educated statement before you make one. But I could be making an uneducated one now myself, but I think she made her move and she kind of had to hold her ground because you don't want to seem as a pushover or anything. But in the end, a fair solution was found, and I think that's the fair solution where both students, and I think that's good. Do I think it's good enough now? And I don't want to talk about fifth years because this whole debate. I think personally, I'd go for exams any day, but I think you were given a golden platter, if I could, if that's even understanding it. You can literally go into your exam, get maybe a H4, H5, and get a predicted grade a H3, and then you're sorted, or vice versa. Do you know what I mean? I think it's so good that you kind of have a fail safe because sometimes an exam goes poorly for people. When you could be performing really well, like you really like biology, you could go into that biology exam, absolutely make a bollocks of it, but your predicted grade is going to save you, and I think that's a good cushion to have.
It is. It's a very reassuring fact though, because we've all missed so much time from school. Like we missed last year in fifth year, and then I missed sixth year as well. But I think she did make a fair decision, yeah, because I remember the teacher unions were like, no, we want the traditional leaving cert. And she was like, no, students want clarity, they want choice, we're going to give it to them. At start, she wasn't having any of it. And I saw that. I think we can all agree she was having...
one thing, and sorry, I think, the 6 year demographic, I think it's a political thing, and I think everything's political these days. You're 17, correct?
Yeah.
You're going to be 18, what, this year, next year?
October this year.
Let's say there's a referendum. She has to be voted. If she does use a solid, who's going to scratch her back next? You know what I mean? Use will, potentially. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she did use a favor, and like the teachers, the teachers want the traditional leaving cert because I think that's what everyone's based upon their training and whatever, and I think that's what you're prepared for. I think predicted grades, the algorithm kind of screwed a lot of people over and kind of boosted a lot of people. Like people are predicting 450 and we're getting 530, like pulling rabbits out of the bag and all that stuff. But like the decision that came up, and I know there was another TD. I'm really sorry. Sorry, what was the name?
Mick Barry.
Mick Barry, yeah, he was doing a lot of
work with us.
And like I said, I didn't hear Mick Barry beforehand either. And I think that's maybe a lack of political awareness on my behalf. But I think another thing is, I think it was kind of like business, yeah. There's a spot in the market, somebody came to fill it in. I think Mick Barry was that soul that came to fill it in. And, he may have done it for his own game, but, at the end of the day, he was helping you. And I think without that, strong, momentful force behind you, like Mick Barry, that somebody's actually in the house, that can represent you. I think, it would have just been like it's kind of like, Greta Thunberg. Like she's just seen as a kid, that holds a sign up to a lot of the big leaders. I think that's the same thing with you. It was just a bunch of rowdy teens that just were lazy and didn't want to. That's not what I'm saying. I think that's what they thought was some teens that just didn't want to do the leaving cert and were just like, oh, yippee ki yay, just let me off with it.
Yeah, another union though that has to be represented and has to be acknowledged for the work they've done and got us the choice that we wanted was the ISSU, which is the secondary school union for students.
Yeah.
That was the unions that really did work really hard alongside McBarry and work alongside us to get us the choice that we wanted.
Yeah. I think the ISSU are great as well. I saw it. I saw this thing, and I won't question their. Where did I see this? It might be Twitter or something. I won't question their structure, but I saw this thing. I could be wrong. I thought I saw something to do with them being run by college students one year.
It is. Some of them are.
And I just don't get that personally.
I don't. Not that I don't agree with it, but
I don't know. They're probably more mature. But if you want to call yourself an Irish secondary schools union, shouldn't it be a representative body, like on the students' council? Okay. Yeah, we're the students' council. It's not the teachers that are running the students' council. We have a representative that, you know, the vice principal who oversees it, you know, for school reasons, that has to be there. But I think, I think if you want to be extremely fair and call it the secondary schools union, because they're the poker players, you know, they're the ones that hold all the cards. Is them people that are up at the top. And I think if they're not secondary school students, like, don't get me wrong, yeah, they may not be mature enough, but I think, that's the growth aspect. And I think that's the beauty of the growth thing. And I think, it should be run by secondary school students. And we can talk about this if you want, but I won't question their integrity or their ability to run it. And I'm not going to say they're not doing I'm not going to say they're doing a bad job, because they're not. I just thought it was a bit absurd that, and this isn't a hit at them. I just thought it was a bit strange to have college students running a secondary school thing, because they're probably in college themselves or uni.
I completely agree with you. I think they have a mix of both. They have college students and
yeah, they do, yeah. And I think that's kind of wrapping it up. But one last thing I have for you, question that I've underlined is there something that gets you excited? Is there something that you're extremely passionate for? Like, I know there's so many things you're passionate about, but is there something that you haven't told us maybe that you're passionate about?
I think it's just, it's kind of my future career, either the guards or the paramedics. Schools, I like school. I like being in school. I love our teachers. I love being in the environment. Do I like the coursework? Do I like the content? No, I hate it. I think it's out of date. It's irrelevant. It's not updated. It's
not taught properly. Yeah, it's not. It's a very one size fits all. Like, I saw this very powerful infographic. It was a picture of cars 100 and phones 100 years ago, and then it was school classrooms, and they haven't changed a single bit. And you can said this to a teacher, I think, and they questioned it, and they were like, smart boards. I was just like, same principle. Updated tech, cars are completely different, telephones are completely different. Why can't there be change there? And I think schools don't promote. Schools are just inhale or taking a lot of information and just vomit on paper, and I don't think that's a very effective mean of learning, and I guess that's for yourself. And one question I have for you is, so you want to either go into the guards or
paramedics,
do a BA in paramedics, and what are like the nutritional requirements for that?
In the guards, I need to pass my leaving cert in 5 subjects.
Yeah.
Have proficiency. I don't speak Irish. We're running into a problem there. I don't have That's okay. I'm studying pre-guard studies next year in Blackrock, which I can't wait to do. I'm going to college next year to kind of get like the gist of being a guard. And then I'm learning Irish next year. And then I'm hopefully going to apply for it in the future.
Good luck with Irish. Absolutely. Good luck with Irish. Like, anyone doing a high level Irish, just blessings to you. If you didn't go to a Gael school and you're good at Irish, well done. But like, just honestly, Irish is just a pain in the side. And I think it's and obviously, this is another debate and getting into another topic. But Irish, I think you can't really relate this, and this isn't like a dig at you, but I think primary school, you're meant to have been taught everything. You go into the first year and you're doing plays and whatever. And I think a lot of people literally are swimming, because personally I'm shit at Irish, okay, but I have a memory, you know what I mean? Like, I have quite a good memory, so I can just remember whatever I have. Some people are literally just, floating above Irish for the whole course, and they just want to stay there because whatever their parents want them to stay up in that higher level class. But I think Irish particularly is one of the poor taught subjects, not by the teachers, but just by the education system. A lot of Irish teachers would agree, and I think the system's kind of failing us. And do I think the junior cert was needed? Potentially. Do I think CBAs are kind of helpful? Yes. Do I think it should have been as dragged out as it is? I think it's like in its final stage and it was like 3 or 4 years in. Yeah, I think it's fair to have something that's not a full weighted exam, and Leaving Cert has that as well, you know, the likes of
Yeah.
economics in your project. But I think there has to be clinical state changes throughout in, you know, the course itself. You know, I think the course is fine, but the way it's taught isn't fine. I think it's old fashioned and it's a one size fits all, like you're saying. But you're saying you're doing the the Garda thing in Blackrock. So do you think you're more inclined to become a Garda or a
At
paramedic?
the always been paramedic, but over the last year and a half, it's changed to the guards, and the guards has always been my full commitment going forward.
Yeah,
Something that I do.
I
So
think the guards are always in spotlight for you know, bad reasons why, and I think it's the same with everything. It's always the bad things that are brought up. But if you see the like, it's always there's always one bad apple in the bunch, you know, and it's the same everywhere. But I think, you know, that one apple kind of not ruins it, but I think people just make it seem so bad, you know. And I think obviously it's forgot about, but I think it's kind of used as an example, whereas the people that are doing things to them aren't shown as a bad example. But I think the guards are, you know, an amazing group of people that, you know, are literally there to help you, and they're not out there to screw you up. And I think a lot of Irish teens may disagree, and I think that's based upon whatever they think, whatever, you know. I'm not going to debate with them because I think it's a silly debate to have. There are people that in this world that are silly, and do I think they deserve to hold the name of guard? No. But I think, you know, calling guards pigs and the whole group bad is just an absurd statement to make and unconsiderate. And yes.
I agree with you. Yep, completely agree with you.
Yeah. And you know, the final question I have for you, Kieran. So you said you know, so I don't know what the pointage is for the course you want to do or whatever. And would you say you were doing the Leaving Cert like, you know, debate thing, fiasco, whatever you want to call it? Was it for, because like, I don't know, your full academics history, would you say it was for you, or was it just because you're that helpful person that we've seen throughout and you just wanted to help people? Or do you think, because
When
was
I
it gonna
was
was it gonna screw you over, this Leaving Cert, do you think, or is it just for more people it was gonna screw you over?
I think it would screw me over both ways. That's why I'm taking predicted grades and sitting the Leaving Cert.
Yeah.
When I was going for it, one thing I did notice for when I was, you know, advocating, etc. One thing I did notice for is that I had different opinions and I wanted to empower those opinions of people. So obviously I started getting, you know, out there. I started, you know, telling people a little bit more about it. And I think that's also what like made me like look down the road in the future or possibly becoming a TD along the lines down the future. That was something that I also really wanted to look into. Was it for me? No, I kind of wanted to do it for everyone, and that's obviously why we had our different subcommittees and all. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I had a question and I just it dazed it in my head. Oh, sorry, it was, you know, the statement of like this thing, not fiasco. I'm overusing the word now. You know, last year the same problem happened, and this year the same problem happened. And if you look, yeah, I've missed 3 months in an old course, which kind of in turn plays upon my ability to perform in school, regardless of what course I'm participating in. And I've missed 3 months. Um, do I think it will affect me? It's definitely affected my, you know, level of learning, yeah, but I think it's going to affect a lot of people that, you know, don't have the facilities. You know, a lot of people don't have suitable technology to participate in these times. And I think, you know, these 3 months are going to be pivotal. Do I think there's going to be some sort of, you know, rebellion next year to try get the Leaving Cert options for us again? Probably. Do I think they should? No, because it's just going to continue like a chain until somebody just stops, and then they're like, it's unfair. And I think it just needs to be stopped. From, I think yous were kind of screwed over because yous are on a whole completely new course. The Unisec got cancelled. I'd say they're absolutely chuffed themselves, but I think that's everything, unless you want to add something.
No, I've not that.
So I guess thank you very much, Kieran. Yeah, absolute pleasure talking to you. I guess I'm gonna have to get a few snippets of the things we're talking about. I'd say you're a trending TikToker, mental health advocate, and is there one more thing you'd
Normal.
Okay, that's what the name's gonna be. Trending TikToker, mental health advocate, and normal. Absolutely love it. Absolute pleasure, Kieran. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.